Okay, red, green, blue. Guys, what's a good mystery color? This is a video about poneglyphs. We need to have a mystery color. Purple. Purple's a good mystery color. There we go. There we go. Ooh, so mysterious. Ooh, it's not even really coming up as purple so much as blue on here, but trust me, it's purple. Okay, so I just realized the other day that I have a video about trees on this channel, and a video about the Straw Hat's favorite ice cream flavors on this channel, and a video about the policies on garbage pickup in the One Piece world on this channel. And yet I do not have a video on the Rio Poneglyph. So that's a pretty good accurate summation of how my channel operates, okay? Ice cream flavors, Rio Poneglyph video. Ice cream more important, okay? Yeah, so as a little bit of a brush up on this, get it? Because it's like archaeology, brush up, you get it? Okay. Poneglyphs are giant stone slabs. Return the slab. They're giant stone slabs made out of like this nigh indestructible material. I would argue that maybe sea prism stone has a part in that. They're not pure sea prism, because if that was the case, devil fruit users like Robin, for example, wouldn't be able to even get close to these things. And there's plenty of times where Robin is like touching the Poneglyph in order to read it, like examine the script better. So obviously they're not made out of sea prism. So there's some other kind of material in One Piece that's like as indestructible as sea prism, and that's what they use to carve the poneglyphs out of. Because if the world government had any means to destroy these damn things, they would have by now. Okay, that was the whole point, that they were created by the stonemasons of the Kozuki clan way back during the Void Century as a record of not only the Void Century itself, which is the Rio Poneglyph, which we're going to be talking about today, but also historical data on individual nations, as well as locations of, well, a location for Laugh-Tale through the road poneglyphs, but also locations for where the ancient weapons are at, okay? So that's something else I guess I should bring up right away. There are only 9 poneglyphs that make up the Rio Poneglyph, because we saw that chart right here in Totland, okay? So if this chart is accurate, which is, I guess Tamago was the one mentioning this, so I guess it's based off of his information, but it might also just be Oda explaining to us how many poneglyphs exist in the world. I'll just take this at face value, okay? There are 30 poneglyphs right here, okay? 4 of them are highlighted as road poneglyphs that give locations to various points in the sea, and then when you intersect those 4 locations, boom, you get Laugh-Tale. And then there's 9 that are also highlighted here as Rio Poneglyphs. So as for that, okay, wait, 9 plus 4 is 13. 30 minus 13 is, hold on, I can do this by myself. Okay, 30, okay, 20, 17. Okay, so 17, wait. Yeah, 17 other poneglyphs are not Rio, and they're not road poneglyphs. They just give other kinds of information. However, it's important to mention, just because a poneglyph is not a Rio poneglyph doesn't mean it might not mention things related to the Void Century. I think the Rio poneglyphs are literally just a 9-part summary of all the most important shit that happened during the Void Century, right? Like, for example, when Robin went to Skypiea and she found the belfry, and the poneglyph was in the belfry, the one that Odin carved that message that Roger left on the side of it, right? She said that this was not what she was looking for. She was looking for Rio poneglyphs, so therefore the one at the Golden Belfry was not a Rio poneglyph. However, it still gave information about the ancient weapon Poseidon, where the ancient weapons had a very big part to play during the Void Century, okay? So Robin is just interested in the hard history of all this, but poneglyphs will mention things and reference things that did happen in the Void Century, even if they're not Rio poneglyphs. By the way, in case you're curious what Rio means at this point, I looked it up and I have 2 possibilities here. Number 1, there's a kanji that literally just means truth. So it could just mean the true poneglyph. Maybe. That's one possibility. That's kind of a stretch. Or I also looked up and found out that there's a character named Rio from a light novel series called Spirit Chronicles, which I have never heard of before. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this guy right here has the secrets to everything relating to the Void Century. I've never seen Spirit Chronicles. It looks cool, so anybody out there that's a Spirit Chronicle fan, like Tekking mentioned Spirit Chronicles. Yeah, I love Rio. He kind of looks like Kirito from Sword Art Online, but yeah, all right. But no, yeah, no, honestly, a Rio Poneglyph, it's just the kanji for truth is in front of the, the poneglyph name, and so it's the true road poneglyph, the true glyph that will guide, the history of the world and all that stuff, right? Okay, all that jazz. So We actually do not know. Robin has most likely found maybe part of the Rio Poneglyph at this point, because there was the Poneglyph that was at O'Hara. We don't know what was written on that. And then there was also the Poneglyph that she found when she left off on her journey by herself after O'Hara burned down and Aokiji allowed her to get away. She did find another Poneglyph in her childhood. I guess those could both be Poneglyphs that weren't Rio Poneglyphs, that were just talking about history in other ways. The Poneglyph that existed in the Alabasta tomb, there was a little bit of a discrepancy there because, Robin was reading just history off of it. Like in the year 5000 BC, this person founded Alabasta, and then his reign lasted this many years, and then in 3200 BC, then this guy showed up and took over, and so she was lying, though. That was history that is probably factual history that Robin just picked up from other places, right? And she was just lying to Crocodile. No, make no mistake, the Poneglyph that existed in the tomb of Alabasta does indeed give the location to Pluton, all right? But that's not a Rio Poneglyph. And then the Golden Belfry at Skypiea, also not a Rio Poneglyph. The Poneglyph that existed at Fishman Island was more of an apology letter, so that was something completely unrelated. And then the Road Poneglyph at Zoe, and all Road Poneglyphs there are just coordinates in order to find the One Piece, right? And I guess I should mention that very quick, just about the Road Poneglyphs, because I was going back and watching Zoe, because Zoe just got dubbed in the English, so I went back and rewatched it. And very interesting thing. So Robin reads the Road Poneglyph at, in the Whale Forest at Zoe, right? And then she basically jots down, she translates into English or Japanese, the script that, the One Piece character, she translates it into Common, okay? And then she gives it to Nami, and then Nami looks at what's written on the Poneglyph translated by Robin, and Nami's like, yeah, I can make a sea chart based off of this information. So it's funny, despite the fact that Robin has the ability to read Poneglyphs, Oda has never given us a direct translation on what they say. What always happens is Robin will read a Poneglyph, and then she'll just, give a Spark Notes, a Cliff Notes version of it to the nearest person. So she'll, look at the Poneglyph, and she'll be like, yeah, this tells us where to find a weapon called Poseidon. But she won't actually, read it word verbatim, what it actually says, okay? And so she jotted it down, gave it to Nami, and Nami's like, yes, I can use the information off of this Poneglyph in order to make a nautical chart. All right, so that implies, a few things. How exactly are the Road Poneglyphs written? I mean, I guess in order to make a nautical chart, I don't know anything about astronomy or how nautical charts were written back in the days of pirates, but I'm assuming, compass directions were a thing, as well as, constellations. So maybe the Road Poneglyph at Zoe said something like, face north by northwest, and then follow the signs of Sagittarius and Scorpio in the sky until the sun is at its apex, and then make a left, and then, I don't know how it would work, but there has to be straight up directions to the point where when Nami looks at what is written on there, she's like, yes, I can plot a course for this. Also, same thing that happened with Roger. When Roger's crew found the Road Poneglyphs, it just took his crew and the navigators on the Roger Pirates a couple of hours, and they were like, yeah, we plotted the course, we're ready to go. So it has to be really simple. It has to be like I would say compass directions and constellations, maybe using the Grand Line and the Red Line as reference points, because I'm assuming with any direction you have to have a point of origin, because the Road Poneglyphs have moved around since they originally were created, right? The one that used to be at Fishman Island is no longer there, so it could not say, from this location of the Poneglyph face north and go this way. What if the Poneglyph moves? It has to have some other origin point, face the Red Line from north where the Red Line intersects with the New World, and then follow these directions on the constellation map, and then you'll reach this location, which is one of the 4 locations which you chart, and then you intersect them to meet Laughtail. I guess that's what's written on them. I don't know, but that's not really the point of this. I just wanted to go off on a tangent there, because that's what I do. Okay, back to the Rio Poneglyphs here, okay? The thing that I was curious about, though, was that it would be very difficult to cram 100 years of history into 9 poneglyphs, okay? Because from what we understand, because Oda does not give us like a direct translation of these glyphs, we don't really know what each glyph means, but there's a limited amount of space on each of these poneglyphs. Yeah, they're giant stone cubes, but there's only one side that is actually etched with the writing on them, okay? And so you only have a limited space to work with here, okay? So, like, they wouldn't be able to include everything. It would probably be kind of similar to what Robin was rattling off at Alabasta, where she was like, on this date, this happened, this date, this happened, like a timeline. That would basically be the best way for them to do it, okay? Because, you know, there's only 9 of them together that make this true history. That would be the most important things that occurred during the Void Century that were located on the Rio Poneglyph, okay? The things that would, you know, the world government doesn't want you to know about, Eam doesn't want you to know about, and it would piece it all together, and then it would make sense, okay? They only had limited amount of space to work with here, okay? All the other poneglyphs we've seen up until now make sense that they were able to fit that amount of information on the poneglyph. The road poneglyphs are just, you know, instructions on a map, or instructions on how to chart a nautical map. So you could believe that that could be on this one face of a poneglyph, and that would make sense. The one that was in the sea forest was more of an apology letter, if anything. So Joy Boy could have written, and I'm just going to use this as an example, as like my own headcanon of what might be written on there. We do not actually know what was written on there. This is just me giving an example, but it might read something like, "My dearest Poseidon, my deepest apologies that I failed to fulfill the promise that I made to you and the people of your homeland. Though the Noah is complete, it will not be able to carry out its purpose, and I am to blame for that. My hope is that one day my will can be carried out by another. Until that day, the Noah will sleep beneath the waves. Signed, Joy Boy." Okay, so once again, that's not actually what it says verbatim. That's just taking what Robin said to Neptune and just extrapolating an apology letter. But you could see how Joy Boy could fit an apology letter on there. But a highly detailed history spanning 100 years, like on these things, the same thing. Okay, one poneglyph can fit a single letter. Another poneglyph can fit some instructions on a map. You know, you would have to have hundreds of poneglyphs to properly, you know, encapsulate everything that occurred in that 100-year period. So it would have to be broken down as a timeline to the most important things, okay? Even if you say, because I originally thought, well, maybe poneglyphs are the writing on them, the ancient script, which, by the way, the ancient script that's on poneglyphs, that's not actually called poneglyphs. The actual structures, the cubes are the poneglyphs. The writing is like just ancient script, I think it's what it's called, right? And it's actually not even just on poneglyphs, because when Robin was looking around Shandora up on Sky Island, she also found other ruins that were not poneglyphs, that were just regular rock and stuff, that were just the ancient script was chiseled into, okay? So that's not a script that's only limited to poneglyphs. You know, other people knew about it, which also brings to question of like, okay, the Kozuki clan knew this script, and also the Shandorians knew this script, and the Shandorians originated from the moon at their earliest rendition, right? And I think we also saw some ancient script up on the moon as well. So that makes you think that, like, all of the world a long time ago, maybe like over, you know, 1,000 years ago, well before the Void Century, maybe 2,000-3,000 years ago, even further back than that. Maybe as far back as when the Tree of Knowledge was planted in Ohara, like 5,000 years ago or whatever. Maybe it was like all the races of the world, everybody was united in one. And, like, everybody shared the same language, everybody shared the same script, and then that was the ancient script. And then the world government took over, sort of like the story of the Tower of Babel, where it's like all of humans communicated at once, and then God destroyed it, and then the idea is that, like, that separated humans so we could not communicate. It might have been something like that, where the world government, who, by the way, does refer to themselves as gods sometimes, will, like, knock down the tower, so to speak, and it's just like, all right, now you're divided. You can no longer work together now, you know, because you're divided by language and writing, you know. But there is like a core language that like everybody spoke, and a core written script that everybody knew way back in the day, all right? Because the Kozukis knew it, and also the Shandorians knew it, and there's something going on there, right? Okay. So my point though there was, I was thinking like, is it supposed to be like an alphabet? Like there's letters that make words? Or is it supposed to be like kanji, where kanji are symbols that mean words? Okay, so maybe it's like a bunch of kanji together, and then Robin can read these kanji, because then you could fit a lot more on the poneglyphs. I'm just saying, like, if it's just like the kanji, like, okay, that kanji, that one symbol means an entire word. That next symbol means another word entirely. Also, that would make it more complex to decipher. You know, it's like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, okay? It's not as simple as just like this symbol means A in hieroglyphs. This symbol means B in hieroglyphs. No, it's like a complex thing where you have to like understand the meaning of these symbols together, much like kanji. And in the case with kanji, symbols that you could have like the same symbols together that could actually be read differently depending on the context, okay? So you got to take that into account too. So it's not a simple 1-to-1 ratio. It's not like this glyph means, you know, the letter A, this glyph means the letter B, and then Robin just knows how to decipher it, because that would also be very easy to crack once you understood. It would not just be understanding what the glyphs mean, it would be like understanding them, how they all work together, okay? So it might be something like that, and if that's the case, then maybe it does tell a full story, and the only people that would be able to understand that full story would be Robin and other people that can decipher poneglyphs, maybe Pudding with the 3-eye abilities, maybe something like that, and Odin as well, the Kozuki clan that could read it, possibly. The only thing there is there was also that scene at Sky Island when Roger was there. After Roger and Odin saw the poneglyph up there, he asked Odin, in order to, you know, let people know that he was there, like etch that extra PS, that postscript onto the side of the belfry, right? And that read, "I made it here, and I will guide this text to the ends of the earth. Pirate Gold D. Roger." So, you know, like, if that's the case, that the amount of script, it was like 3 lines of script that Odin etched into the side of the belfry, that kind of looks comparable to what Roger was saying in terms of like an actual alphabet to words thing. So I don't know. Also, at the end of the day, don't forget this. Oda could just do whatever he wants, because I don't think Oda's ever going to release like, hey, this is how you decipher poneglyphs. That would be funny if it, like, at the end of the story, at the end of One Piece, after everything wraps up and there's a big the end, Oda releases a new data book, like the last One Piece data book, and in the back of it is like, yep, this is how you decipher poneglyph script the entire time. So you can go back through the story and you can look at the poneglyphs and it's like, holy crap, that's what they actually say the whole time. You know, kind of like in Final Fantasy X, where you have to you collect those Al-Bhed spheres throughout the entirety of the game, and so that when you replay it, you can actually understand what the Al-Bhed are saying. It's something like that, maybe. Although I might be thinking a little bit too much into it here. I'm thinking maybe Oda just comes up with, I mean, I'm sure he has like different symbols he uses, but he probably doesn't attribute the symbols to anything. And I mean, it wasn't completely made up, because I know Oda definitely took references from ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and probably other ancient script. Like, the Egyptians with their hieroglyphs, that was pretty much just for like very important religious texts. That's why whenever we find tombs and inside the pyramids and everything, we find hieroglyphics everywhere. That's because that was a tomb for a pharaoh. That was very important for their religion. So that's why hieroglyphics were everywhere, and that's the script that survived the most. But that wasn't their day-to-day writing system. The Egyptians also had hieratic, which I think they used more for like other purposes, and then there was like Coptic and Demotic, which were introduced by the Greeks a little bit later, I think, when the Greeks took over Egypt. So the idea was like they had their religious text, and then they had like just regular script for like day-to-day, like recording taxes and numbers and stuff like that, right? So Oda definitely took references from like past civilizations to come up with the idea for the poneglyph script, the ancient script, but he didn't actually like attribute it to anything important, okay? It's basically just a bunch of squiggles to make it look cool. I mean, it works. Now, here's the kicker, though, and the thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, the Rio Poneglyph is not a singular stone. Before Totland, and before we got this chart here that was revealed that it was actually broken up into 9 of them, I guess a lot of people, me included, just assumed that it was just one big giant poneglyph that you could probably find at Laughtail or whatever, right? But the thing is, if it's broken up into 9 of them, I'm guessing Robin has not even found one, because she's never mentioned that she found one. You'd think that at least, like, to the Straw Hats, she would bring that up. It's just like, yes, I'm looking for the Rio Poneglyph that has the true history. There's 9 of them in total. I've already found 2 of them. Because if Robin found any of the Rio Poneglyphs, that would at least give her part of the story of the Void Century, and she's never mentioned that she knows that. she seems just as in the dark with the Void Century as most people are, you know? So even if it's like, you know, oh, I found part 4 of 9 of this story, that would at least give her something to work with. Unless it's like, I don't even know how this would work, but it's One Piece, so whatever. You could take 9 Rio Poneglyphs and separately they just seem like a bunch of gibberish or not very important information, but the act of putting them all together on Laugh Tale at one location will, you know, make it so they make sense. Could that work? I mean, maybe if they're written... Oh, what if they're written in code? Oh, damn. What if it's something like that? What if it's like the Poneglyph at Sky Island that she was like, I'm not interested in this. I'm not interested in finding ancient weapons like Poseidon and Pluton and Uranus or whatever. What if those are Rio Poneglyphs the whole time? It's just that you can't like, it's like they don't give any direct history about the Void Century, but if you take all of those Poneglyphs, put them into one place, all 9 of them, then it's like a code becomes apparent or something, and then you can decipher it. Boom, there's the Void Century right there. It's like a double layer of security that the Kozukis worked into it. You know what I mean? Because the idea is, once again, you can only fit so much information on these stones. So if Robin only found 1 Rio Poneglyph, just 1, and that's it, there has to be some stuff written about the Clan of D, some stuff written about Joy Boy, some stuff written about important stuff that happened back then. Robin acts like the first time she even heard the name of Joy Boy was when she was reading the Ryugu Kingdom Poneglyph, the one in the Sea Forest, the apology letter. She acted like that was the first time I'd ever even heard of the man Joy Boy, right? So that implies that any other Poneglyph she's read up into that point never mentioned him, and you think that if they were Rio Poneglyphs, that were 9 of them that chronicled the whole history, you'd think that Joy Boy's name would probably show up on more than a few of those. Maybe not on all 9 of them, but a good chunk of them, considering he was such an important figure back then, right? Right? So maybe it's something like that. Maybe Robin has discovered Rio Poneglyphs already, and she has like sort of like an eidetic memory, like, you know, a photographic memory where she can probably just look at a Poneglyph and know what it says, and she just remembers it. She also takes notes as well. I don't know about the one in Alabasta because, you know, Crocodile stabbed her right after she read it, but all the other ones she probably wrote down after she read them and stuff like that, right? So I'm sure she remembers what they say. So yeah, that makes more sense. That makes more sense than Robin just never uncovering a Rio Poneglyph up until this point in the story. It's that she has, it's just they don't make any sense unless they're all put together, right? And they're not physically all put together because, you know, they're giant stone blocks that are really hard to move. They probably weigh several tons. So the idea is you make an etching of the front and then you put them all together and then they make sense. And maybe there's like a proper order you have to put in. You know, like the one on Sky Island that talked about Poseidon. You know, that one probably said something along the lines of, once again, this is not accurate, this is just me spitballing here, but it might have said something like, follow the ocean currents, far beneath the surface world, down into the darkness below. There the sun will shine on the land of the exiled. That is where the ancient weapon Poseidon slumbers. Ooh, that would have been dramatic if it said something like that, right? But you know, at the very bottom of that, it's like part 7 of 9 in a series, right? So that would make sense, though, for the Kozuki clan and any other, you know, race like the Shandorians and, you know, anybody else that would have written the Poneglyphs or come up with the idea for the Poneglyphs way back in the day. It would have made sense that not only are we going to put the history on the Poneglyphs, we're going to put it in there in code, and then in only order to decipher the code, you have to move the Poneglyphs in the proper order and then understand them in order to make sense out of all of it, right? That makes more sense. Other than that, there is another possibility, and that's like Robin really does have, I mean, Robin really has not discovered a single Rio Poneglyph up until this point in the story. All she's found are road Poneglyphs and then Poneglyphs that talk about history, and the ones that direct to ancient weapons have nothing to do with the Rio Poneglyphs. And then when Robin finally does reach Laugh Tale, all 9 of them will just be there. That's the other possibility, right? They're all on Laugh Tale. Maybe Roger did find all 9 of them, and well, I guess no, because it was mentioned that Roger, you know, he did the etching thing as well. He didn't actually physically take the stones. So maybe the stones, maybe the 9 Rio Poneglyphs were always on Laugh Tale, and because Roger was the only person to ever reach that place in the last 800-900 years, then, you know, they wouldn't have moved anywhere. Obviously, Roger wouldn't have taken them anywhere, so they're just all still there. And then when Robin finds them, they're all lined up kind of like Stonehenge, like in a circle, and Robin just walks into the circle, and she can just read the entire history, You know, just like, oh, okay, that makes sense now, right? I guess it could be something like that, but I like this other idea because Robin has been looking her entire life for poneglyphs. The idea that maybe she's found some Rio Poneglyphs, but she didn't know they were Rio Poneglyphs. That would be cool. That would be an interesting way to spin the story, and then there's like extra stuff you have to do to it, right? It's also possible that even if you do decipher the Rio Poneglyph, yeah, that might give you a basic timeline and like outline of like the most important events that occurred during the Void Century. But in order to make the most sense out of all of it, you have to read maybe every poneglyph, right? This really does seem like a video game where it's like the main goal is to find the Rio Poneglyph, but if you really want to make sense out of all of it, you got to find all 30 of them, and they're scattered all over the world, so have fun in the post-game, right? You know, maybe you'll get a golden piece of poop after all of it, after like 3 damn weeks of looking for every freaking Korok seed in Breath of the Wild, and all you get is a damn golden piece of poop! You know what? I don't even care. The adventure was what was fun. Yes. Okay, anyway, no. That's my point, though. Like, maybe that information that Robin read about Alabasta, and that might have been history that she found on another poneglyph. She was just lying to Crocodile that it was on that poneglyph, right? Or she found any information anywhere. Like, knowing all that information at once is the thing that gives you the full picture of the Void Century, okay? With the exception of the Road Poneglyphs, because the Road Poneglyphs just give you directions. But the idea is that, like, okay, so after the Road Poneglyphs, there's 26 other poneglyphs. You read every single one, then you will get a perfectly clear picture, or as clear as you could get, you know, about the Void Century. Maybe it's something along those lines as well. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's always fun to talk about poneglyphs because I also get to talk about Robin in the process, and so I wish her the best. I hope she finds the Rio Poneglyph in whatever form that's going to take, and we have a really epic moment. I still want that scene. Like, the way that we, the fan base, find out about the Void Century is that basically Robin takes over as the narrator. Like, whenever she deciphers all the Rio Poneglyphs, or they get to Laugh Tale and they find all 9 of them, or whatever, Robin is the one that, like, is, like, reading them, and then maybe Nami or Usopp or somebody in the background is like, what does it say, Robin? What does it say about the Void Century? And I don't think Luffy would really care too much. I mean, Luffy would care because it's Robin's dream and she's finally realizing her dream. He would care about that. But I don't think Luffy himself really gives a shit about, like, the Void Century or Joy Boy or the origin of the Will of D or anything like that. Like, he would probably be interested in the story of Joy Boy as, like, a person the same way he was interested in Odin as a person. But, like, the particulars of the story and the past, Luffy wouldn't care. But, like, you know, you have other Straw Hats that are like, what does it say, Robin? What does it say? And Robin's just like, oh my god, this has everything. Are you ready for me to tell you the full story? Like, it's not just the Rio Poneglyph, it's also her archaeology skills and her discovering history from other cultures that she's able to, like, she has like a Jimmy Neutron brain blast moment where she's like, oh, it all makes sense now. Epiphany. All right. Are you ready for me to tell you the story? And all the Straw Hats get popcorn and like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, so 900 years ago. And then Robin just takes over as the narrator, and then we have like 10 chapters of the Void Century arc. And then there you go, right? That's all she wrote. That's all Oda really needs at that point. All right, well, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, but we're not done yet. We actually have, well, okay, you know what? I did write some stuff down for Elephant Facts today, but I had to do it in a hurry. And it's on a topic that I really don't want to do in a hurry. So you know what? I'm going to research this topic a little bit more, and then I'll get back to you next time. Because this is a topic on war elephants. Because war elephants were totally a thing, and we need to talk about them. And I'll get into that in another video, in a bombastic war elephant special, okay? All right, I'll see you back here next time then. Tekking, signing out.